a situation like this is really something to avoid. Obviously, it's bad to be low on HP, right? But it's especially bad because now you're not really in a position to follow up on Swain's plays anymore. Welcome to a quick session on ADC. We are going to be looking at some Kai'Sa laning and trading patterns. First situation I immediately want to look at is the one right here, where you get level 2 and look for a trade, which is really good in and of itself. But what ends up happening is your Swain is not in a position to follow up on your trade, right? Because he's too far back. And so the overarching theme of today's session is going to be playing with your support and realizing when you can go for trades with him and when you can't. And right here is like, okay, you have level 2, so you want to trade, and you try to trade, which is good, but then you need to realize, okay, Swain is not exactly in a position to follow up, and also they are Karma Ezreal, so they can trade back quite heavily if you leave your minion wave. So here I want you to realize, okay, my support is not quite in position, so I need to chill a bit. And then at the latest moment when you should realize that is when Swain misses a Z. Now you really have no way to keep engaging on them, and they will just clap you on the way back to your minion wave with their superior range.
Can I ask something?
Of course.
In this lane, it's kind of obvious that I probably should have waited for Swain to land his E before stepping out of the minions. But if it was, I don't know, Lulu or Janna, would it fine to me to play like that?
That's a very good point, actually, because with those supports, it's a bit different. You can be more proactive in looking for trades. But also, this concept that we're going to talk about is going to be mostly related to playing with engaged supports like Swain, like Leona, like Nautilus. And I think that's especially good for you because you're someone who plays Kai'Sa a lot, and Kai'Sa is only really good with those kinds of supports. So just pray to God that your supports lock and engage, because that's really a lot better with Kai'Sa than Enchanters, in my opinion, at least. So you do end up going for the trade anyway, and now they punish you pretty heavily. And a situation like this is really something to avoid. I mean, obviously it's bad to be low on HP, right? But it's especially bad because now you're not really in a position to follow up on Swain's plays anymore. And that's really the second part of this concept. It's not only when you yourself look for trades that your support should be able to follow up on it, but also that you position yourselves in a way so that you are enabled to follow up if your support makes a play or hits something. And now look here, if in this situation you are right next to Swain and you have 200-300 HP more maybe, then Ezreal is maybe dead and maybe 1 HP after this trade, right?
Yeah, to be fair, if I didn't take the poke earlier, I would have probably didn't click back right here. Mm-hmm. So I guess if I played better earlier, I wouldn't be so scared right now.
Yeah, exactly, that's my point. That's why conserving HP is very important in an all-in lane like this. Because if you don't have HP, then you can't all-in even if Swain hits double root like this. That's why you need to really focus on maintaining your own HP pool, so you're still able to follow up on stuff like this. Because if you can't, then it's just like Pepe sad. And then Karma does stuff like this, which is funny to look at. Now your lane all of a sudden is really tough to play. Because even if Swain hits something like this, you can't really fully commit because you have to worry about your own health total. Again, Karma is easily dead here if you have like 100-200 HP more. Yeah, and then what follows is some good old illegal laning. Right here I would just advise you to base as soon as possible, again in relation to the concept that you want your HP back as much as you can. So just look for crash and then you can probably base to make sure you have HP again and are enabled to follow up on Swain's plays again. Instead what occurs now is a slow and painful war of attrition after Volibear ganks you successfully, which is good. They just end up shoving the wave into you and you stay with 1 HP. Which is a bit illegal, but Kha'Zix isn't here to punish you, so end up getting away with it, and Ezreal ins before you do. It's good that you pick up Pot here. Pot is really important in the lane for exactly the reasons I pointed out earlier. And now we're playing the same game again. Except this time you're actually full HP, and so this time you can follow up on Swain's E's, because you actually have the HP pool to invest in trading. And now we're gonna come to the kind of second half of this whole trading lesson, which is going to be, okay, when Swain hits an E, you need to be actually in position to follow up. Here you're turning on your music or something. In the meantime, Swain ends up hitting an E on Ezreal. And again, if you're just next to him, you can easily punish Ezreal a lot here. He's going to fall down to like 300-400 HP at most. And then laning is going to get a lot better for you, because then he has to respect more and farm for range, and it's really annoying for him. So when you are actually full HP, try to position towards your support in a way that enables you to actually follow up on their CC spells should they hit it. And the exact same thing is going to end up happening a few seconds later again. Here. Again, if you're like 10 centimeters more forward, then Ezreal loses so much more HP. You get the passive proc and the extra Q. you can maybe even look for a complete all-in, right?
Yeah, I guess me not being able to leverage that, I can do a few auto attacks at level 1 or at level 2 and going ham instead too early. Basically kind of lost me the lane.
I mean, yeah, you can say that that is the mistake that cost you the most, but I would really like to focus on the lesson that is implied by that, and that is 1, try to conserve your HP pool as much as possible, and 2, if you have the HP pool to actually trade and all in with them when your support hits something, then make sure you are actually in position to be able to follow up. Those are really
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's just when you try to conserve HP, but your support isn't really in a mood to engage, you feel like don't really do anything.
I mean, yeah, that's just the ADC life. If supports both don't do anything, then you both just farm happily ever after and scale. I mean, especially Kai'Sa is a champion that doesn't really mind that. The reason why you pick Kai'Sa into Ezreal in competitive, in my opinion, is because Kai'Sa can just, for the most part, free scale. So you really shouldn't mind just farming and scaling. That's not a bad thing for you. But yeah, most of the time people will hit spells in solo queue because it's freaking solo queue and everyone wants to fist fight all the time. So eventually something is going to end up turning up. Now here is where you, I assume, where you start seeing, okay, they are kind of low, I really want to fight this because I still have good HP. So I think here is where you start ping Swain a lot.
It's not even, to be honest, it's not even about straight up him starting the fight. It's more about him being behind me. Like, I feel we can't stand where I can stand right now.
Yeah, and look at that, that's funny, right? Because now you have all the HP and Swain is like half HP, 30% something. And that's why he doesn't want to step up anymore, because he just made the experience, okay, I hit 2 E's and ADC is never in position to follow up. That's the experience from his point of view, right? That's why he doesn't want to walk up anymore now, right?
Yeah, I guess.
It's always kind of funny to look at how people behave and are actually influenced by what you do in lane. And now you start playing really aggressively, with which they end up respecting, but shouldn't, because you do not really have any means of engaging when Swain is nowhere near. And lastly, this ends up in Swain just tilt flashing in, and I don't know what the fuck this play is.
To be honest, I don't mind him going in like that, but the reason why I didn't follow, I had no vision in river, and I had no idea where the jungler is, so I just wanted to kill the ward and then go in. So this happens sometimes too, engage support, they just go in kind of crazily.
But I would argue that here you're kind of provoking him doing that play. I don't think he does that if you don't ping him.
Yeah,
so,
I guess, but...
So it can sometimes be actually good to ping your supports if you see something very concrete. But if you just put general pressure on them to engage, then oftentimes that's, at least in low elo, going to result in shit like this. Which we obviously want to avoid, so... Try to ping your supports to go in situations where you see something very concrete, where you're like, okay, they are in a position to do this engaged right now, and then you ping 6 times. That's a good way to ping your support.
I assume you were talking that I should ping only when he's already in a position to engage.
Yeah, ping in very concrete situations where he has the ability to do something right now. Like, for example, if Swain was standing a bit more forward and was actually concretely in range to ult into flash E, then you can ping him 6 times and be like, okay, go, 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 we have a window right here, right now. And then afterwards, if he doesn't go for it, which is also fine, you can just ping him back again. And then shit like this doesn't happen. But that's also more of a side note. The main point of the session, once again, is just going to be 1, conserve your HP total as much as you can. And 2, when you have a high HP total, make sure you position in a way so that you can follow up on your supports engages.
I guess, okay, conserving HP, I guess, is me being able to land free poke, but not being over aggressive.
Yeah, exactly. You can always take free damage onto the enemy because, well, it's free. But you should only be very conservative when it comes to trading your own HP for enemies' HP. Because trading will always be favorable to non-all-in lanes as opposed to all-in lanes. Then lastly, I want to give you some tips and tricks on the way for how you can actually realize this in game. It's always one thing to talk about something in replay, and then it's an entirely other thing to actually do it in game. In your case, I think it's actually a bit more tough, because usually you can set yourself a trigger to remind yourself to do something, but this is something that you have to do all the time. It's something that just has to become automatic whenever you lane with an engaged support. And so my suggestion firstly would be sticky notes, that you just take maybe 2 and put them on your screen, and big one say like conserve HP, and second say position with support, and that you look at those at the start of every game. And then secondly, you can try to think of it when you walk to lane maybe. So like when you walk to lane, either when the game starts or when you've just based or when you've just died, that you think again, okay, I want to position aggressively with my support when my HP total allows it, and try to conserve my HP when that's not the case. Those two triggers are what I would give to you. You think you can work with that, or would you prefer something else?
No, it's fine. Can I ask one last question? It's
Of course.
about conserving HP. In this situation, I'm laning against the ADC was basically the same range, so it's easy to like find free damage or poke him on the last hits. But when I lane against, I don't know, Caitlyn or Ashe, it's a little bit harder. And when I watch VODs, usually people don't, no, I mean pro players, they
Yep.
don't even attempt to punish these lanes on the last hits. But then a lot of coaches say that, well, you can try to punish them anyway, because if they attack minions, they can't attack you. Should I try to punish them on last hits, like for example, if it was Caitlyn instead of Ezreal, or should I don't know, just chill out or wait for Swain to learn his abilities?
The only reason for you to not look for punishes would be if you don't have the attention to devote to that, which is fine. That's not a bad excuse by any means. But the pro players are right in the sense that if the Ashe or the Caitlyn plays it sane, then you will never get that window. Ever. The thing is, in your elo, the ADCs most likely won't play it perfectly, so you will have a chance here or there, and it's obviously great if you're on the lookout for that, because sometimes they will just step a bit too far and be in your minion wave or something, and then you can take a favorable trade against them. If you can be there to punish that, that's quite nice. But I wouldn't say it's something that you have to immediately get good at against longer range ADCs, because in the long term it's something that's only gonna happen rarely. If you keep climbing and people keep getting better, they will make those mistakes a lot more rarely. And so is it nice to be able to punish stupid mistakes that low elo players make? Yeah, of course. Is it mandatory to get to high elo? No, because high elo players won't make those mistakes anymore.
Yeah, so basically if she farms on a max range, I can't really do anything. But if she kind of works up to me, then I can try to abuse this mistake.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Is that everything? Do you have something else? Another question?
Yes, I guess it's all for now.
Cool. Then I wish you best of luck.